topic I want to talk about, guys. Game of the year. So the regular Jeff Keighley kind of event. Yeah. So first of all, I mean, you know, did you guys catch it?
Not me.
Yeah, no, I saw summaries of the show and clips of some of the big news announcements. I've been particularly following what's been happening on the fighting games front. I've just gone balls deep on fighting games, and I mean, yeah, it seemed to be pretty good show, given it was a pretty flat year. I mean, there are a few blockbuster games that came out, but it was a pretty flat year for gaming. So, you know, compared to what we've had all year, my understanding of watching some of the highlights and what the media was saying, it seemed to be a reasonable show.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because usually, you know, these Game of the Year shows are quite either cringeworthy or not that great.
What?
Yeah.
Was it this year that there was some random guy that was managed to get through security and get on?
That's right. Yeah.
I think that was the only clip I saw.
But you know, it was actually a good show in comparison to other years, and you know, with it being such a flat year, yeah, it's ironic. This is probably the best show that Jeff Keighley's put on for many a year, if not the best show that he's ever put on.
The thing is, like, it's always been the leftover stuff left for the Game Awards, because there's been so many big announcements throughout the year, but there was not much, so we were starved so much that our expectations were so low. That's probably why we thought it wasn't bad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I felt there were some really kind of big announcements. I mean, I'll just kind of talk about what I thought were the key points. I mean, no real kind of Xbox showing, but Phil was there in person, even if his games weren't there.
Can I just say, just while we're there, what a wet fart of a year for Xbox. So
yeah, it was not
bad.
Good, was it?
They're on their last legs, I feel. If this year, 2023, they've got 6 months to redeem themselves. I mean, I'm going to throw that Xbox out the window. I'm not even going to... Series X, I was so frustrated because...
literally, it's nothing.
It's nothing. So bad.
It literally is absolutely nothing. Yeah.
And I don't want to go down like a rabbit hole, but even amongst that, with Halo as well, with their roadmaps and the lies that have been told about, they've brought people in to fix it. We're going to have X, Y, and Z, and even for a game that's already out, and not fixing that as a flagship game, and it's a year out, and there's not even any cosmetics that should be easy to put into the game. My confidence in Xbox going forward is so low, and I actually think Phil's tenure is being all fake news. That's how I'm feeling about Xbox. But let's say that for another conversation.
Well, they've been riding, you know, the crest of the wave of Game Pass. I mean, that's carried him through for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, and the whole accessibility stuff they've been talking about as well, which is like Sony have come out. They're showing with their accessibility accessories coming out now. I think they're against the ropes now. I think with Sony.
It's such an odd situation, isn't it? You know, you kind of at the start of this this generation, you thought, wow, these guys are coming out swinging, and then you know we've been starved of kind of games, maybe not news, but certainly starved of games, and then Sony, who are not really talking at all, quietly trickling out their kind of first party games all the time, quietly trickling it out, making a complete shit show of their kind of premium tier. Clearly can't do services, you know, to save their life at the moment, but you know they're still trickling out these first party games and tying in exclusive, you know, content. But I mean, that's what this Game Awards did feel like. This show felt like. It felt like a bloody PlayStation State of Play. you looked at what they announced there. You had, like Death Stranding 2. You had, extended train of Final Fantasy, 16. Yeah, and there's numerous other bits and pieces like, I think DLC for Horizon. It just felt like a state of play.
It's Sony going in reverse in terms of speed. In reverse, it's still outdoing Xbox at the moment. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it is a little bit criminal, though. I mean, Sony are just saying absolutely bloody nothing most of the time. I mean, there's no spectacle, right? It's just a blog post and maybe a video. Here you go. But yet, when it comes, come to the end of this, and it feels like they've got more to say than Xbox. It's bizarre.
Well, that's the thing. They don't have to. It's just like if this is the competition, why do I need to try any harder?
So
potentially.
There's the other part to this, which is it's not just about the games being delayed by Xbox. I don't have the confidence in their ability to pump out the games of quality, even if they had X amount of time that they need to get out the door. I just, when was the last time they actually created a really good 10 out of 10 game? There's not many of them. There's what, Horizon, Forza Horizon 5, right?
Yeah.
That's all I can think of.
But that wasn't even this year.
No, it wasn't.
No.
I'm talking. Yeah, they're just.
It's odd.
You've got the. I mean, let's say in 6 months' time, you've got Redfall that drops. You've got Starfield, right? Maybe they've got Forza Horizon. Was it 8? I think that's the next one coming out after that. If those aren't good games, and I'm really dubious about Starfield, Redfall they're not shown much of, then what have they got next year?
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, we might get to the Game of the Year awards next year or this year, end of this year, and imagine if we're in the same situation where, it's like it's a bit of a no-show. Again, I mean, it was. It felt like a bit of a no-show in terms of obviously the actual winners itself and maybe the nominees. For kind of from Xbox.
If I may just say one last thing on this, because we probably spent a lot more time than we should have, is all the media outlets are saying that almost all the credibility, all the goodwill they had built up around Game Pass and around being the best deal in gaming, and Xbox are here now. They've had a little bit of a bump. Just give them a bit of time. All that goodwill has been burnt now. I think this year, or 2022 last year. It's now time to deliver on, and I think they're gonna really struggle. I think.
Well, it's a do or die situation, isn't it? Really, I think.
Yeah.
Well, they will survive in terms of they've got enough players who have got the PC version of Game Pass, and they will still make money. They're not going to go anywhere. But to be taken seriously as a competitor to Sony in the console, I think this is their lot. This is their.
Yeah.
They're bleeding now badly.
To have the standing they want to have, to outright lead. I mean, that's where the clock's ticking. I think.
Yeah, but
you need games for that,
and I think that's why the things that have been happening with their acquisitions and slowing things down. That's going to mess them up really hard.
Yeah,
they're not going to have those exclusives.
Yeah, let's not roll into that. There's a whole different part of course for that. But I mean, going back to the Game of the Year awards, or the GOTYs, or whatever we want to call them, all the kiddies. I don't know why he doesn't give out kind of a statue of himself, really. I did feel this year that we actually got some really solid announcements. I mean, Death Stranding 2, which is another, I think, PlayStation console exclusive, but also on PC. Hades 2, Hades is actually getting a sequel,
Yeah.
and that was that was a multiple game of the year
Yeah.
winners time. It was quite a big winner. Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8.
Oh, 6 is good.
Yeah.
I played the beta of that.
Yeah, I mean that's got a
really
release
good.
date, I think now. Yeah, Tekken 8 actually looked quite good.
That looks really good as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 16 got an extended trailer and a release date, I think, confirmed.
Is that Sony exclusive? Is that
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
one of
it is,
these
yeah.
kind of like
timed exclusive? Timed.
Yeah. If let's say Final Fantasy 7 remakes anything to go by, it could be a long time.
Yeah.
'Cause Judas, which was a game from the creator of BioShock. I don't know if you guys have really played much BioShock.
I played the first one a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked excellent, and the games, it's been talked about or murmured about for kind of some years now. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Warhammer, I love my Warhammer 40k. There's a new Warhammer game, Space Marine 2. It looks amazing.
Yeah, but surely that
looks
news
amazing.
is eclipsed by certain other media around Warhammer.
Oh, well, yeah, the Henry Cavill situation.
That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
How big are you? Would you say Warhammer is in gaming? I mean,
It's
something that-
massive. I was thinking about this the other day, right? And I looked at my kind of Steam library. I've got so many Warhammer games in there. Right.
It took them a long while though to release their IP, because I'm just thinking back, Joe, around Dawn of War 1. It took them ages to release that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as soon as that happened, there's like a floodgates of kind of
It's
Warhammer
absolute
games.
floodgate. I would say there is more Warhammer 40k games at the moment than there are Star Wars games.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily about the volume. It was more around. I didn't appreciate how much of a strong following it has, and it's still not a mainstream following, is it?
No, it isn't.
It's quite specialist.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like it's quite nerdy.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, that's how I've always thought of it
Yeah.
as, and yeah.
I mean, I've got the old models.
Yeah. But I think it's I don't know what to call it, but there's very few untapped, let's say, IPs out there. Like big expansive universes that you can produce content, will it be games, film, God forbid music, like and TV, right? And to my mind, Warhammer is the last of this, of these IPs. Even stuff like Lord of the Rings, because of the movies were so successful,
Yeah, it goes back to when this came out, right? Because I guess Warhammer as a universe, both the sort of basic fantasy and 40k, all that kind of stuff also came out similar times to Warcraft and other things that was kind of competing, all kind of going for that same theme of.
It was before then, Al.
Yeah. I know.
It's 1970s the company started.
So it probably depends on which ones you're exposed to first.
Yeah.
Of which you then continue that kind of genre.
Yeah. What I was trying to say is that the lore and the universe development started in the 70s. It didn't start when, let's say, the computer games started or when the novels started to be written, right? All of that has built up, over between 40 to 50 years now. And you've got this massive untapped universe of material that people can really kind of like... they can get a lot out of. I mean, I hope they do. I hope they do the kind of IP some justice. I hope it's a TV program Henry Cavill's basically getting involved in, right? I hope
I
it's
have
not
faith in
embarrassing.
Henry.
Yeah, I do as well. But you know what I mean? Like, it could just be massive. Is what I'm trying to say. I mean, I mean, the other day I did think, and we're going on a complete tangent again. I was thinking to myself, if you're a company. And you wanted to compete with someone like Disney Plus, or Disney, I should say. Yeah, Disney have got they got Marvel, they've got Disney, they got Pixar, they got whatever they got. I was thinking, what could you do? Well, Warhammer. You could, DC. You do stuff like that. It's, but yeah, it's so rich, right? There's so much they could do with it. But it's just like whether they kind of manage it, and it's the kind of like story that are being written about, 40K per se. Think Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Fully adult, hugely violent, yeah, horribly violent, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. But I can't wait for the game, and I'm kind of like kind of managing my expectations for what they do with the TV program, because I've wanted this for a while, right? And I just thought to myself, wow, and Henry Cavill, Space Marine all the way.
Yeah, he's got to be. Yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, he's got to be, right. But that's not Space Marine 2 was not the highlight for me. The highlight for me was Armored Core.
Ooh.
Armored Core making a comeback. I don't know if you guys played that, but
no,
played the originals.
No, but I like those sort of games, and I've seen the CGI trailer for it. I think at least it looks really good. You can imagine that looking good on some PS5 tech.
If that comes to VR, I'm all in. But
that'd be amazing. I'm salivating now. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember Armored Core. Like I used to, play those games on the. I think Armored Core Nexus was the last Armored Core I bought on PS2. My God, amazing game. I mean, it's a certain. You have to have a certain taste in games, and that taste in games is basically twinking in building. Let's say, your Armored Core, which is not that different, let's say, in principle to building a character in, say, Diablo, and that sort of thing. Or or some, you're building up your character in Destiny. It's that sort of thing, but it really is just that customization, But yeah, it could really fit really well in a VR space.
It's got, for me, it looks like it's got that Ace Combat kind of thing going on.
It's deeper than that. It's deep.
No,
it's a lot,
I can imagine, but it's that vibe when you're playing. I don't know.
It's a Japanese. Right? It's a Japanese developer, and it has that Japanese feel in and around it.
Well, it's from Soft,
and it's actually it is really well made in and around it, and I guess the dialogue it does is very similar to kind of the Ace Combat kind of stuff as well. They just kind of like randomly pop up, start covering some narrative, and then off you go in your mission. Going from one issue to the other. So it's cool.
Can't really remember a lot about the narrative, but I mean, it was all about the twinking and customization. You know how what would happen when we used to play, Diablo 3. I used to disappear for about half an hour trying to manage my inventory or something. It's that sort of thing. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, so those sorts of announcements, I've got to say, like, wow, for a Game of the Year award, for me, it didn't feel like filler. Hades 2, Death Stranding 2, obviously Final Fantasy 16 release date, Armored Core making a comeback, Street Fighter 6, Judas from Ken Levine. People have been waiting for this new game for a while. Even Diablo 4 got a release date.
Star Wars: that Jedi Survivor as well. That's quite a big game.
Yeah, and the actor who plays the main character actually came on stage. Yeah, so that was interesting. And talking about people who came on stage, Al Pacino came on stage to give one of the awards out. Who would have thought? Scarface. Say hello to my little friend.
Is he a gamer?
No, he said he wasn't actually. He said, "I'm not a gamer. I know nothing about this stuff." But I kind of appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
He didn't come on stage and just literally try and game it or something.
Desperate for money.
Yeah, potentially, but it was good to see him there. But he was actually giving away the award for the best performance.
Yeah,
which is why he was there. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but going back to this, it wasn't filler content they kind of announced. There was even some sort of cyberpunk. I think it was DLC, wasn't it? Announced Horizon DLC. You know, you can see this. It's actually quite Sony kind of heavy in many ways. The Last of Us Returnal announced on PC. You know, so on and so forth. But getting into the so-called reasons why we had the Game Awards. Well, it's awards, right? And it should be, I think, for me anyway, it was no real surprise that Elden Ring kind of won quite big, then followed by God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That's really the 1-2 punch, what I could see. And, Elden Ring, I think, based on what I've heard, kind of rightfully so, winning, Game of the Year. I don't know whether there was many surprises here.
No. Well, it was a flat year, wasn't it? It was either a few blockbusters and then nothing, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think the surprise one is probably the mobile game, Marvel Snap. I think they've done a good job there, actually, on that one.
Have you played it?
No, I've not, but I've seen what it's doing, and it actually makes a lot of sense. And they've got Ben Brode, who was essentially the game director of Hearthstone, the sort of Blizzard equivalent, with the Warcraft theme in it, and he's kind of taken a team across there to create that. So that seems to be doing really well. I've not played it, but I play plenty of mobile games, and it's one of those that I would probably try at some point.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it as well. Not played it myself yet, but it's free to play, right?
Yeah. But it's one of those things that if it's... I've not looked at it in detail, but, Hearthstone got to a point where you'd end up having to keep paying per season just to get loads of packs. So I don't know if Marvel Snap would follow it, but it is, free to play initially. And I imagine at some point, if you need to pull out more cards and stuff, that there must be a monetization angle.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I've heard good things about it. I mean, that's for sure. I think one of the things I would say is that, can someone just tell me the difference between best action game versus best action adventure? I mean, can someone just clarify what that means? Like,
is it arcade action game versus RPG?
They weren't that specific. So obviously, Bayonetta 3 won best action game, and God of War Ragnarok won best action adventure. And I'm just kind of scratching my chin a little bit here. If you know what I mean.
It must be action RPG versus action hack and slash or something. That's got to be it, really.
They're all hacking and slashing as much as I can see. Is that except for one's got a pair of big axes, or whatnot. So, really, I think the GOTYs this year, to my mind, it was a good watch. In terms of the games that were announced, uncharacteristically non-filler. It did feel at times like a PlayStation State of Play. So it would be consistent that Xbox showed nothing, even from that perspective.
Just out of interest, how does the money work on this? The Sony would pay the Game Awards to actually host, or do you think, or the Game Awards is such a stage that it works the other way around?
No, I think it would definitely be, the model would be that it's kind of airtime, isn't it? Really, that's the only way I would really be able to describe that.
Yeah, so I've read last week, this is obviously Jan now, 2023, that Xbox are probably going to have their own showing probably early February, I think. End of Jan or early February, which is going to be kind of what they should have been showing at this game show to set the stage for 2023 early before Sony does. So that probably explains why. Potentially,
yeah. I mean, I've heard the same sorts of things.
Sitting on their hands.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the same sorts of things, but we kind of got some awareness of what's coming out for Sony. Next year. They've got Final Fantasy 16, Forspoken. They've got the next Spider-Man. If I understand it correctly.
You've got the Last of Us multiplayer as well. They've already started showing. Yeah. They said they're going to be talking about it very, very soon.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's after the TV show, the HBO show is coming up on the 16th of Jan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised either during that week or a few weeks after they start warming up. I think that multiplayer game is getting released this year because they've been talking about it. It's been rumored to come out last year, end of last year. It didn't happen, so I think it's ready. Because remember that they actually made that as it was meant to be bundled with the Last of Us 2. They actually spun it out to another game. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, it would have worked the same way as I think Last of Us 1. Really, I hope I'm right in saying this. But there was a multiplayer component.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. I played that.
Yeah, same thing happened with Uncharted as well.
Yeah, I've played both those. They're actually really good.
Yeah, I know. Not necessarily your traditional kind of multiplayer, especially all you do is playing COD.
But it was rather than bloat in terms of items and things to buy. It was just a really fun game to play.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which agree. And I don't know whether I'd be interested to see what they do this time. Whether they keep some of that with more depth, or they're going to make it more RPG like, let's say.
Yeah, if it's one of their kind of 10 so-called live service games, and you imagine it would be, you can imagine it being a little bit more expansive, with a bit more depth. How that translates, into gameplay, I'm not really sure. As we keep saying, I think they're hell-bent on doing that. I think, that's going to be their bag over the next generation, or, in the one after next.
Yeah,
as long as they can get money out of it.
I think again that's the when Xbox murders themselves potentially this year, the steamroll will start. The next wave of steamroll from Sony will be their games as service to get people probably hooked for the next 5 years on wherever those franchises. Because they got the TV shows and movies as well. They're talking about, and Gran Turismo.
yeah, and that was announced at CS. Correct, yeah.
Is it a movie or a TV show? I think
it's a movie. It's a movie.
It's a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit shocking who in these movies as well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we kind of drift into more of that talk, I mean, Game of the Year. I don't know that I've got much more to say about it, but I mean, for me, it was a fairly strong showing for the actual kind of Game of the Year event. In terms of who won and lost, no surprise, no surprise. But it was a flat year. But not to insult Elden Ring or God of War Ragnarok. There were really strong games in a year where there weren't many games, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fair shout to say, like even in other years where you had a fuller kind of release schedule, that the outcome would have been they would have been the winners anyway. They were both really strong products. Yeah. But thankfully, the Game of the Year awards missed the whole there wasn't too many cringe-worthy moments. There was a strong showing in terms of kind of game announcements. I think this time round didn't feel like filler at all. Okay, and I think with that said, let's move on to the next topic.